And next, it's my great pleasure and honor to welcome our second speaker, Dr. Victor Dzau. He's a president in the United States National Academy of Medicine. He will talk about the healthy longevity initiatives from the global aspect.
It's a great honor for me to be here, and thank you for working on Saturday afternoon. United States, usually most people would not come in on Saturday, but I know you work very hard here. I'm among so many friends and also distinguished guests, so I want to thank all of you for organizing this meeting for me. Perhaps a way of introduction, I should tell you a little bit about National Academy of Medicine. The National Academy of Medicine is part of 3 national academies: National Academy of Sciences, National Academy of Engineering, and National Academy of Medicine. We were founded, the parent organization was founded as National Academy of Sciences in 1863. So just a few years later, founding of this university. And we were chartered and founded by Abraham Lincoln in Congress. And the idea at the time of Civil War was to create an academy that can advise the government on science and other issues independently, free of politics. Of course, we need this very much today. So over the years, our work has been very impactful because as the Academy members and the work that we do in terms of advising through reports or meetings, we have influenced greatly the US government, Congress, the executive branch, but also globally. Almost 50 years ago, the health and medicine part of the US Academy of Science was founded, and it was called the Institute of Medicine. And until 2 years ago, we changed the name to be similar to everybody else as National Academy of Medicine. This last 2 days, I was at the Global Ministerial Meeting on Patient Safety. Almost every speaker started with a slide. In 1999, our institute was the first who wrote a report about patient safety. And of course, it's changed the entire world of how, in fact, we're looking at patient care. So for me, I have great respect for Japan and many friends here. I've trained many students. In fact, I think there are about 40 students in Japan who were trained by me, one of whom works right here in Keio, and that is Horishi Ito. And he, in fact, has worked in my lab at Stanford for 3 years in doing some of the work that we did in growth factors, smooth muscle cells, and also in the antisense oligonucleotide treatment. So, of course, we are very proud of our members. Professor Yamaga is one of them. We have, you told me, 8 members in Japan, including Professor Yamanaga. In our membership, we have 2,000 total members. Of course, we elect only 70 a year and 10 international. And among our members are 50 Nobel laureates. So our members are very distinguished, and of course we work with them, but we also invite many people who are not members to work with us on many issues of policy. Now, in this particular area, we got very interested for very obvious reasons. It's a very important issue globally. But also, from a few meetings and surveys, it became very clear that this is one of the biggest problems that we face in the United States and globally. When I arrived at the National Academy 3.5 years ago, I said one of the things we should do is to take on bold, audacious projects. We call it the Grand Challenge. That is, what would be a project that's so important that we can activate, mobilize many players around the world and also in many different sectors. And after a 1.5 years of soul searching, led by Dr. Robert Horvitz from MIT, who's Nobel laureate, we chose actually this topic. So what I'd like to do is spend a few minutes talking about this. First of all, as many of you know, the world is, of course, aging very rapidly. This picture that shows you on the, here it is. On this slide shows you today's population of over 65, and right here. So we're about 2018, and we're seeing that number of age 65, which is about 6 or 7% of the population, is also at the same time crossing over with people over age less than 5. What is quite amazing, if you look at this slide, is a trajectory. The projection that by 2050 globally, 1.6 billion people will be over 65, whereas the percent of individuals less than the age of 5 will continue to diminish to 6% population. This is partially because of the aging population, but also reduction in fertility. And frequently, one thinks about this problem as one of the developed countries. This slide shows you this is, in fact, happened mainly in developing countries, shown in blue. So as you look at this slide going upwards, substantial number of people in both developed and developed countries will be the aging population. So this results in inversion of the demographic pyramid from young to old to now more of a dome shape. And of course, this has huge implications. So the good news is that now we're seeing almost doubling of our life expectancy for over 100 years. But now, of course, we're seeing shrinking younger population, and therefore a more and more burgeoning population over 65. So this is known as silver tsunami, and I'm sure you can appreciate that. And of course, the silver tsunami is the question of all these large number of baby boomers and then more and more people over 65. What does that mean to the world? What does that mean to a population? So you can imagine the impact of an aging population on large issues of families, communities, society, industry, and economies, such as when you get older, you get more infirmities, diseases, chronic disease, NCD. Patterns and prevalence markedly increase. This has implication on our healthcare delivery and our financing system for the elderly. Importantly, family structure and relationships will change. If you look at today, the family structure, where certainly I grew up in Hong Kong, in China, when I can remember generations living together. Now, of course, families have much fewer younger people than older, and frequently don't even live together. If you imagine in China, when they have the one-child policy, now one couple have to support 4 parents. So this is a significant issue, of course, putting tremendous strain on the traditional family structure, social infrastructure, particularly elderly who live alone or in isolation, social insurance and retirement programs, and of course, importantly, workforce size and composition. I won't have time to go over all these things because Professor Nakatani tells me we can only have so many slides. So, but you understand the implications, so I won't spend too much time on this. I think the question is, are we prepared for this? CSIS and Global Age Watch have created a preparedness index. And I can tell you, when they look at sample large number of countries, overall, the levels of preparedness is very mixed. While some countries have begun to act and starting a plan, many have not. And I want to emphasize is beginning to act. It's not as if everybody have an answer to this. But my feeling is we better act soon because this issue is becoming towards us very quickly. So preparing financially, socially, and scientifically for longer lifespan, to me, is a global imperative. So at the National Academy of Medicine, we decided this will be our grand challenge for the next few years. Initially, we thought maybe we have several grand challenges, but now we only have one because it's such a big issue. Our hope is to get a global initiative, get many people to partner together to address this issue. By that, I mean different countries, but also different sectors, from private sector, public sector, partnership, in trying to come together to solve this problem. Because we're no longer worried about lifespan, we're more concerned about health span. How do you get healthy longevity is the question. So we have approached this with two components of a grand challenge after many months of work. One is to create a roadmap for healthy longevity, a roadmap which allows every country to look at what's the best way to approach this issue of increasing health for the elderly. In a roadmap, we look at a comprehensive assessment of challenges and opportunities presented by global aging, as well as promising solutions and directions for improving health, productivity, and quality of life. We also want to stimulate the whole area of research. We feel that there's not enough research in this area. If you look at traditional research in this area of aging, you can divide them into two types. One is those working on model organism, where there's a lot of promising information on earthworms and on fruit flies and on mouse, but not enough in human. The work in humans is more related to the care of the elderly, geriatric research. We need to bring these areas together to look at how we can really transform the aging population from a health span viewpoint. So our idea is to create awards and prizes to catalyze breakthrough ideas that can expand health span. This could be a convergence of biologic, social, engineering, sciences, and technology. We want to use this mechanism because we have so much prestige. We can catalyze people coming together with the Academy to transformative and scalable innovation in healthy aging, longevity, and human, and create an ecosystem of research. So on the roadmap, which Professor Nakatami is a member of our roadmap, it's an international commission. We have, really, this is not looking at US at all. In fact, includes John Wong from Singapore, Sally Davis from UK, and WHO Director in Aging, and many others, as well as, of course, experts in the United States. Our idea is to look at how do we prepare ourselves globally for aging, and how do we create a roadmap by which every country can look at it, but contextualize within their own circumstance. Not exactly the same, but the overall principle of what we need to do in 4 areas. First, of course, is social, personal, economic determinants. This is a very big issue, as you know. Elderly are frequently isolated, feel they have no purpose in life, and this, of course, greatly affects their well-being. And the idea of actually addressing this issue, including access to social services and social support, and of course, clinical medicine and delivery systems, where we have tremendous struggle, the way we are fragmented and not oriented towards supporting this population. Policy and practice, including financing policy, is so important, and what do government need to do in creation of the right policy, the right financing system. And finally, science and technology innovation. We strongly believe that through science, technology, innovation, such as the work you're doing here at Keio, it can really transform the way health span can go forward. So this is the idea of the roadmap in which, again, Hiro Nagatani helped us develop with the committee. We look at an international commission with an oversight group, which is to be appointed, and an authorizing body called the Commission, which is Independent Global Commission, with the National Academy of Medicine as Secretariat. We will generate a report, which is very extensive, with 4 different work streams, each one evaluating, analyzing, and reporting on what to do in science and technology, what about social environment, clinical medicine, practice, and all these will feed up to the commission. And each one of these will be workshops. We hope to hold one of the workshops here in Japan. And in this, the workshop summaries will be generated, and then it will be supplied to the commission for it to finally put together a roadmap. This work itself will take quite a lot of money and time. We estimate that this may take about a year and a half, according to our own experience, but giving 4 workshops, it may cost about $3 million of US to perform. So we are now, of course, looking for resources to support this work going forward. Importantly is our planning group, as I mentioned already. We have Sarah Barber from the Kobe Center, Michael Bird, many of you know, Laurie Casterson from Stanford, Chris Castle, in fact, from the Kaiser School, but she was a very famous geriatrician, Sally Davis, many of you know from UK, the head of IBM Watson Health, Deborah Gisanzo, Linda Fried, a very famous, in fact, public health scientist working in aging from Columbia University, and of course, the head of the National Institute of Aging, and many others. But I want to also shout out for, of course, Hiroki Nagatani, Dr. Jack Rowe, who's famous, in fact, in this area, and many others, John Wong, and of course, Tachi Amada, many of you know very well. So our hope is to now kick off this fairly soon. We already had 1 meeting. This was the 2nd meeting here at the time, because we had a smaller meeting before, and hopefully very soon we'll be able to launch this project going forward. And I think it will be a very important study going forward. But I think on the science and technology area, we believe that ultimately the way to extend health span, of course, is through science and technology. We can improve the social construct, improve healthcare construct, etc. But through science and technology, we can delay the biologic process. So several important areas of biological aging is modifiable. And the question is, how can we bring this quickly into human? Also, using engineering and digital technology, we can also create technology that can help the activities of daily living, improve quality of life, mobility, functionality, and many others. So this is what we're thinking. By bringing science and technology, we can greatly improve the opportunity of a health span. So if you look at what is happening right now, there are many promising research already. On the biologic side, you can recognize all these areas, from mitochondria, from telomere to autophagy, of course, Nobel Prize won here, Japan, and longevity genes to molecular pathways, and now the epigenetic clock. But on the technology side, there's telehealth, remote patient monitoring, robotics, wearable systems, smart homes, and artificial intelligence. So imagine that we can bring these areas together. Our hypothesis is that even though this is a population getting bigger and bigger, there's not enough research and science in this area. Many of the technology, the tech world, focus on the younger population. But imagine that you actually activate this for this population, which is only get bigger. It is not only to be helpful for the elderly, but it's a win-win because it will create a large commercial sector and commercial market. So we believe that we want to leapfrog this area through our ideas of price and awards. So as you know, a small percent of our national budget is spent in aging. And as I said, aging research is focused on this area. So I think we want to have a lot more innovation, but we want younger scientists to enter the field. We want to make aging research very cool, as they say in English, and American want to jumpstart the field to bring different disciplines together. So the idea of prizes and awards came to us because traditionally, a Keio prize is given to someone who's already done the work, and many years later, you get the prize, and then, of course, you get recognized Nobel Prize. What we want to do is get people to come and do the work to achieve the endpoint to get the prize. It's called an inducement award. And of course, there are examples of this. For example, first of all, the longitudinal prize. Longitudinal prize was, in fact, 300 years ago when the British were navigating and they had no instrument to navigate. So they have a national competition to say, whoever come up with a solution wins the prize. And of course, I think it was a clockmaker who come up with the idea of longitude. And of course, now 300 years later, they also creating another prize called Longitude Prize to compete. And in this case, they're looking at antimicrobial resistance. There are X Prize, as you know. X Prize, again, is an inducement prize where you set the goal and people compete. If you win, meet the goal, you win the prize. If you don't meet the goal, of course you don't, right? Such inducement prizes are being used more and more in the United States and everywhere else. And so X Prize, for example, the Ansari X Prize was one for commercial space industry. Can you send a rocket up there commercially, come back a number of times to meet the criteria? That prize was a $10 million prize, but now it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. Recently, the launch, of course, of the SpaceX. And so there are many such examples, and United States, more and more, even the President's Office in Science and Technology and others, all believe in this idea of a challenge prize called inducement prize. NIH, NSF, and BARDA and others. So we thought maybe the best way is to catalyze the area by creating prize for people to enter and compete. So we have a design committee chaired by Tachi Yamada, many of you already know, and of course also co-chaired by Dr. Robert Horowitz from MIT. We have some very distinguished individuals, including engineering, including the previous president of Novartis Institute of Research, including Jack Rowe, of course, Mark Walpole, who's the Chief Science Officer, United Kingdom, and a number of others, etc. And the idea is to catalyze breakthrough ideas, achieve transformation, scalable innovation, and build an ecosystem where globally, and this is why I hope Japan will join this, in terms of bringing new minds to work together, scientists, engineers, innovators, entrepreneurs, health leaders, etc., as to create a whole ecosystem of science and technology. So this is, I think, my last slide. The concept has to do with the following. Tachi Yamada, who used to be the head of Gates Foundation Global Health, created a Gates Foundation Grand Challenge Exploration Award, in which they put out many, many small awards. But the idea is to ask innovation. At NIH in the United States, you cannot apply for a grant unless you have preliminary data, feasibility. But here, they just ask for good ideas. 2 pages, 1 page, and have people select not work in the area. The whole idea of getting more and more people think creatively. Many will fail, but many will also succeed by doing this. These awards will be in small amount, like 50,000 to 100,000. We hope with several hundred awards at this way to attract young people. You know, in the digital world, they have hackathons where young people come together and try to solve a problem together. We like to create this like the hackathon of aging, but not only in terms of digital world, but biologic engineering world. Come with great ideas. So we cast a big net, and those which have promises will be given a larger award called Challenge Award, maybe $500,000 to $1 million each, to continue to move towards human. And of course, ultimately, we have this grand prize, the grand prize 1 or 2 at several $1 million. That's what we're working on, the idea. Now, this does not have to be a vertical process because anybody with great prizes can compete. But this allows you to create a large number of young people or scientists entering this area and then being able to try to move their work upwards and, of course, ultimately have breakthrough technology. So that's our concept. So as I'm talking about this to many people, it's very interesting that everybody asked me, is this a global award? I said, yes. So many places like Hong Kong, Singapore said they want to participate. They want to create regional competition. So our idea right now is to make this a global challenge. How do we do this? Well, there could be regional competitions so that the money spent in Japan goes to their own investigators. But it participates in the overarching umbrella of our grand challenge, right? And so Hong Kong, Singapore, Japan, Europe, US will all have call for competition, and then we select with common criteria, but then each region, which will participate investing in their own people, will therefore grant the award, so activates the field within each country. Yesterday, Nakatani and I visited Sumatsu and Ahmed, and we discussed this, and he was quite open to this idea, as is other countries as well. And then, of course, we're now talking to philanthropists, who is talking about giving us $20 million to think about creating a big prize. So this is the concept of both a roadmap and also a global competition in terms of mobilizing this field. So I think our vision for healthy longevity is a collaborative vision, working with all of you, working with public sector, civil society, and business sector, all together looking at technology, urban planning, health and social core in the community, financing, volunteerism, and life learning, and so on and so forth, by creating these two initiatives. So I look forward to discussing with you about our concept. But using the National Academy's ability to attract the very best people, we hope that we'll be very successful, and I hope you all join us in this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you very much.